Greetings everyone! Today we're taking a look at the IDW Sonic 2019 Annual, a book that was originally supposed to be released March 27th, but got delayed. Hey, it's out now and that's all that matters. For those unaware, annuals are double-length issues of a comic series that tell one-shot stories that normally wouldn't fit into an ongoing comic, especially if there's a story arc happening around the same time. So it's a good way to jump into the book without getting lost in a current story arc. It's also a chance to show off some new talent to this continuity, as you'll see. Sonic comic specials are nothing new. The Archie Sonic comics have produced a number of double-length books over the years. Thus, I'm not surprised IDW would start making their own Sonic-related specials. Interestingly enough, when I picked up the physical version, it was bound in a similar manner to that of a graphic novel instead of stapling pages together. Whatever you may think of IDW, you have to admit they at least want to make a good impression with this book. Like getting Sonic team member Yuji Uekawa, and I'm pretty sure I butchered that name, to do a cover art for this book. For this review, instead of summarizing several stories in one section, and then have my general thoughts section, I'll have each section dedicated to a specific story in the annual. And before I begin, I should point out that according to the current editor of the IDW Sonic comics as of this video, all stories are canon to this continuity. Our first story focuses on the heroic comic exclusive characters Tangled the Lemur and Whisper the Wolf. Presumably set not long after the Battle for Angel Island arc, it starts with Tangle excited to see Whisper again. Only Whisper doesn't share her enthusiasm. Tangle begins showing her around her town, Spiral Hill Village. Hey, we finally have a name for this place. The tour takes them to the Mineral Museum run by this character, Jewel, a childhood friend of Tangle. Thanks to years of adventuring between the two, Jewel was able to amass an impressive collection of gems, enough to open up this museum. That's saying something if Whisper's impressed. Unfortunately, such a collection would attract some unscrupulous characters. Sure enough, that's when our antagonists arrive. The Babylon Rogues from the Sonic Riders series, making their IDW Sonic debut. They quickly snatch the gems, and Storm the Albatross sees a big one. That's actually Jewel's shell as she's cowering in fear. Storm unknowingly kidnaps her before the trio escape. Tangle and Whisper follow, thanks to a combination of the slingshot trick from issue 4 and using the special Whispin as a booster. When Storm presents Jewel, Wave the Swallow is horrified. When Tangle and Whisper show up to rescue Jewel, Jet the Hawk will hand her over if they can beat him in a race. This leads to an argument between him and Wave. It turns out she has limits to her villainous ways. Stealing valuables is one thing, kidnapping people, that crosses the line. Jet knows this, but he has a reputation to maintain. Tangle takes advantage of the situation, snatching the gem bags with her tail. Finally, Jet orders Storm to throw Jewel out, and Storm takes it a bit too literally. Jewel hitting the side of the airship damages one of her wings, which means flying is not an option. Whisper gives chase, followed by Tangle and the loot. The Babylon Rogues decide to cut their losses and bail. I'm happy to report that today is not the day these three go splat. Whisper activates her Whispin hover feature, and they float gently to the ground. Later, the three, plus Whisper's Wisp companions, help put the museum back together. Jewel thanks the two, especially Whisper, for saving her and her livelihood. The story ends with Whisper giving Tangle a fist bump. I know Tangle's using her tail, but we might as well consider it an extra arm by this point. I've said this elsewhere, but it bears repeating here. Spiral Hill Village recovered pretty fast from the Batnik attack in issue 4. Granted, we don't know how much time passed between that issue and this one. Plus, Blaze did stay to help with the cleanup. We're introduced properly to Tangle's best friend Jewel, who's a beetle. I wonder if it's writer Ian Flynn and artist Jennifer Hernandez's idea to do this. If so, okay. We need more anthropomorphic bugs. It would justify the bee's existence. She gives us an opportunity to explore Tangle's backstory a little, and as I said earlier, thanks to their past adventures, she now has what I assume is a successful mineral museum, which leads to our conflict for the story. Bringing in the Babylon Rogues lets us have more villains in this universe. It possibly confirms that the Sonic Rider games happened, which should make fans of those games happy, and it's to give Tangle and Whisper someone to defeat without relying on Sonic or another game character. In fact, I'm impressed that what defeated the Babylon Rogues was their own incompetence. No hero versus villain fight, no racing. It's the rogues' inability to cooperate that made them lose. Had they not argued, they would have caught Tangle stealing the bags early enough to do something. A lot of it is also Storm's fault. I think they only keep this guy around because of his strength. Whisper seems to have grown a little. The fact that Tangle invited her to Spiral Hill Village and she accepted is proof enough, which brings up an interesting thought. How did Tangle get a hold of Whisper in the first place? Is it something like, "Hey Whisper, wasn't it great how we took on a giant metal dragon, am I right? Now that we're friends, want to exchange contact information? You can come to my town if you like." I do like how Whisper is still reserved in her social interaction. While hanging out with Sonic and company got her to open up a little, getting out of her lone wolf, well, semi-lone wolf mindset is something that doesn't go away overnight. Still, she's a little more talkative, while still using her whispery voice, and eventually allows Tangle to do a fist bump. With a Tangle and Whisper miniseries coming soon, I feel like this story is a pilot to see how the two comic exclusive characters fare. I think it's fine. Combine that with great art, and I think we're off to a good start, both for the miniseries potential and this annual. The second story stars our main hero of the franchise and his sidekick flying in the tornado, with Sonic in the pilot's seat. They're testing a new booster for the plane, and Tails figures since Sonic is all about speed, he'd be the one doing the testing while Tails notes the results. Before the test begins, something speeds past them, a variation of the Valkyrie bandit called a Stealth Valkyrie, and it stole resistant supplies from a nearby storehouse. The only way to catch it is to activate the tornado booster. Sonic's enjoying the thrill, naturally, but Tails says the booster is meant for straightaways, and one wrong maneuver could result in a crash. The Stealth Valkyrie tries to lose them in a nearby island canyon. That's not the only problem. Seems when Sonic enthusiastically pressed the boost button, he jammed it, so they're stuck on boost speed. That doesn't stop Tails from coming up with a plan to take care of the Badnik. They'll use the updraft to get close enough to the Badnik and drop their payload, i.e. the booster. Some quick maneuvering causes a geyser of what I assume is lava to blast the Stealth Valkyrie enough to let go of the crate. As they prepare to drop the booster, Sonic's like, "Yeah, I'm not letting my little buddy's work go to waste," and personally deals with the Badnik. And that's that. Tails retrieves Sonic, they signal the resistance to pick up the missing crate, which I should point out is in lava, so they have to hurry, and Sonic and Tails speeds off into the sunset, until the booster runs out of fuel. If you've seen my review of Team Sonic Racing's comic adaptation, I said that writer Caleb Gullner had promise, and I wanted to see him work within the official continuity to see how he fares. So far, he's doing a good job. Now I think, unless stated otherwise, he took some inspiration from Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Genesis/Mega Drive. Think about it. There's Sonic and Tails on the tornado, they have a booster for the plane, which first appeared at the end of Wing Fortress Zone, the Stealth Valkyrie is a modified version of the Bird Badnik that first appeared in Sky Chase Zone, and finally Sonic himself pilots the plane, something that only happens when player 1 controls Tails. Otherwise, it's a simple but effective tale that shows off Tails' genius and Sonic's reckless but ultimately good-hearted nature, as exemplified by not letting his buddy's hard work go to waste. Before I move on, I get the reference to another Sega property in the title. What I don't understand is, how will the resistance crate survive in the lava? Unless lava-proof material is readily available in Sonic's world and Anyway, let's move on. Our third story begins with Blaze searching for silver in a desolated area. Don't worry, the dialogue mentioning Amy is to let us know that this is in the present, and the two are not in a bad future, like in Sonic 06, though the present has it rough as is thanks to Sonic forces. Well, Silver's looking to change that. What he's trying, and failing, to hide from Blaze is, he's growing a garden. Or trying to anyway. Silver's amazed with nature's past. Or present. You know what I mean. There's nothing like plants where he comes from, and Amy told him he can grow his own. He picked the spot, planted seeds, watered them, and yet nothing is growing except weeds. Blaze starts inspecting the area and, hold on, Silver said the line. By law, he should be picking up objects and chucking them everywhere. Anywho, Blaze offers to help Silver by first taking advice from Flame Hyanard. After Blaze finishes, she has Silver use a garden hoe to turn the ash into soil so that Silver can remake his garden. It wasn't working earlier due to Silver choosing a spot where the fallout from bombs makes the earth less than ideal. The ash Blaze made will act as fertilizer for the new seedlings. It pays off as, eventually, Silver and Blaze now stand amongst a beautiful garden, with Blaze giving important advice regarding plant nourishment, listen, and provide. It is fitting that Evan Stanley not only did art for this story, she also co-wrote it. She's had plenty of practice writing for Silver and Blaze thanks to her ongoing fan comic, Ghosts of the Future. To let you know, I have not read any of it myself, but I've heard good things. She did write for an official Sonic book, the Archie Sonic spin-off series, Sonic Universe. Her 4-issue arc involved Silver in a bad future, although instead of facing a fire demon, it is an Orwellian dystopia. I have read the story and reviewed it, so watch my videos on those issues if you want to hear my opinion. I have no shame. Evan's co-writer Gigi Dutrix, or Dutrix, and if you're somehow watching this Gigi, I'm sorry I butchered your name, is also a promoted fan. She too has a fan comic, The Murder of Me, which I have not heard of until doing research for this review, and she also does voice acting for Sonic fan projects. From what I was able to find, she was originally supposed to make her IDW Sonic debut with the issue 8B cover, but something happened and Evan instead drew that cover along with cover A. What's important is, Gigi is here now, and she and Evan made a nice little character piece with Silver and Blaze growing a garden. I'm reminded of a deleted scene from the original Terminator, when Kyle Reese is emotionally overwhelmed by nature, having grown up in an apocalyptic wasteland. Silver's the same, but unlike Reese breaking down, Silver takes it all with childlike wonder. It's only when he tries and fails to make his garden that he gets frustrated. Blaze helps and offers some useful advice. I assume she learned it in the soul dimension. You know, I wonder, are the writers familiar with gardening in general, or did they have to do some research? I'm actually kind of curious about this. This story, which I assume also takes place after the Battle of Angel Island, is a nice breather from all the action in this book. It shows the characters as more than just visitors with odd powers. And for some reason, no matter what the media, these two always seem to hang out despite being from different worlds. The story begins with those skunk brothers, Ruff and Tumble, discovering Dr. Eggman's pyramid base from Sonic Adventure 2. This obviously takes place before issue 15 of the main series. It might even take place before they took over the Wisman distribution town from issue 3, because they're searching the pyramid for any loot and weapons Eggman might have left behind when he abandoned the place. Just because this place is deserted doesn't mean there aren't any booby traps they could potentially trigger, like this one here. Should have studied up on ancient tombs by watching Indiana Jones films, fellas. Tumble's more worried about a potential curse the pyramid's supposed to have. Actually, the only thing they need to worry about is competition. Enter Rouge the Bat, who's also here for Eggman's loot. She probably figured it's safer to nab it now rather than during the events of Sonic Adventure 2. While she may have worked for Eggman for a time, he still had robots and security online. Well, the Skunk Brothers don't want anyone else going after the loot, and possibly the weapons, so Ruff sprays Rouge before the two make a break for it, only to run into an egg golem. Either it's the same one from Sonic Adventure 2, or Eggman had another egg golem lying around. Rouge takes pity on them and searches for the golem's remote, only to find something else. It doesn't matter, Ruff and Tumble destroys the egg golem by having it smash its own head. They even got a proper rhyme for their Team Rocket shtick. This little victory is ruined by the arrival of Rouge. Seems that something she's found turned her into a mummy and says the bandages will doom Ruff and Tumble if they touch them. Interestingly enough, it's Ruff that panics about a curse and drags Tumble out of the pyramid. I'm sure this is the last time they'll encounter something that can change them through touch. Actually, Mummy Rouge was just a trick to get rid of Ruff and Tumble because what she actually found were refugees, I assume they're refugees, who've taken residence in the pyramid. They were keeping the booby traps active to keep out out intruders. But thanks to Rouge's act, the Skunk Brothers will spread the word of the pyramid's curse and leave the refugees and the treasure alone. Speaking of treasure, Rouge is allowed to have some as long as she doesn't reveal where she got it. From what I can look up, Cavan Scott is a freelance writer from the UK, who's worked on various spin-off materials for BBC television, which of course includes Doctor Who. For his first outing in a Sonic book, he's done a good job utilizing something from a 3D game in a new way. Penciler Diana Skelly should be familiar to those who've read Archie's Sonic, as she's done a number of issues for the post-reboot era. The story focuses a lot on rough and tumble, and shows how they handle tough situations. This makes me believe, again assuming it takes place before issue 3, that they are capable of taking out a Badnik horde and enslaving a town. Them knowing Rouge and vice versa, I can buy it. Infamous criminals and thieves would gain a reputation, good or bad, in the underworld. And I would also buy that Sonic and his more straight and narrow friends would not be familiar with rough and tumble until they do something that gets in their way. Rouge is ever the treasure seeker, but she does have a hidden heart of gold when she decides to help the refugees with the whole intruder situation. And she did get something out of it in the end. The refugees didn't come out of nowhere. They appeared in the shadows while Tumble mentioned the curse. Said curse could be a reference to King Boom Boo, who just popped in randomly in Sonic Adventure 2. If that's the case, they've got nothing to worry about since Knuckles took care of the ghost. There's one more story to look at, so let's get to it. We begin with a group of characters gathering for the first ever meeting of the Sonic Fan Club. Said meeting doesn't start off well as there's disagreement on who's going to be the president. Since they don't have names, I shall call the two here Gavelbanger and Red due to her fur color. And yes, I double checked, it's a she. To settle who should be club president, one of the members suggests a contest. Whoever's the most like Sonic gets to be in charge, and everyone will participate. It starts with a race with Gavelbanger in the lead. Red points out that Sonic is more than just speed and rolls into a ball, followed by a bunch of the others. Gavelbanger points out one more trait that Sonic has: bravery. He'll show his bravery by attacking this lone egg pond that just happens to be right there. It's too much for him, so Red has everyone go after the robot. And wow, you should leave this stuff to the game characters, folks. Even the Chaotix can do a better job than you. Someone else enters the picture, Tangle. She wants to impress the club with her skills. Unfortunately, she's having an off day and gets buried in her tail. All while off panel, Sonic showed up, smashed the Badnik, and zipped away. And that's how it ends, folks. James Kolchalka, I'm sorry if I butchered the name, from what I'm able to find, is notable for works like American Elf and Sketchbook Diaries. Of course, this and other information about him and pretty much all the other talent comes from wikis, and we know how accurate they are. The pencils are done by someone I'm more familiar with, Jonathan Gray, who worked on a number of Archie's Sonic issues, especially during its dark age. His love of the cartoony style, and cartoons in general, is noticeable in the character designs. For example, doesn't this moth look like a certain character from Animaniacs? And look what Gavelbanger is wearing, a pink shirt with a yellow star plus a brown jacket. Is his real name Stefani? As for the story, it makes sense for Sonic to have fans and to have said fans start a club in his name. But to have them do dangerous things to prove you're the best? Yeah, the Hedgehog's not setting a good example. And Tangle showing up to embarrass herself after what we saw in the first story? Nah, I repeat, the idea of this story is that it's supposed to be a peek at the fandom itself. If that's the case, I'm not crossing that minefield. Besides the art, I classify the story as so-so. If you can find humor in it, great, but I'm not feeling this one. That's the end of the 2019 annual. I hope you've enjoyed this look at more of the world of IDW Sonic, and for the most part, I've had a good time myself. I would not be opposed if they were to do something like this again for next year. Just make sure it's released on time. Though I heard it was delayed to make sure the book looked good, which I can respect. For now though, I probably should be heading back into the main IDW Sonic book as big things are happening around this time. I'll see you then. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!